Namaste, a warm welcome. Hope you all are doing fine. Thank you so much for being part of my this journey. I welcome you all. I'm Jayapalashri, as you all know me, and I am truly grateful for all the feedback, for all the messages that I'm getting. It's really overwhelming, and it's it's all your love and support which keeps me going. I have been speaking about something which is very personal and dear to me, and trust me, when I started it, I didn't know I was going to go in depth of speaking so much, because I never prepare my conversations. I always sit and I just start, because I believe in just following the guidance that pours in. So as I started talking about change, the first day I conveniently skipped a lot of going into details, but I was nudged. I opened up and I spoke about certain deep emotions that I went through, how I had to deal with it, including what I spoke just in my previous recording, where I spoke about my journey in a foreign land with my son, trying to settle him, trying to do things and trying to put him in place. Now, as I continue speaking, I don't want to bore you, because all of us go through the same thing. I haven't gone through something exceptional. I haven't gone through something that none of you have gone through. We all are individuals. We all are humans. We have different thresholds of withstanding pain, and we go through things different, in a different equation and different thought process. So what could be okay for you may not be okay for someone else, and what is okay for someone else may absolutely not be okay for me. So there comes the difference, and there comes the entire confusion of what's right and what's wrong, and how do we do it, and how do we go about it. Now, having said all this, and after speaking what I did speak about, I realized that I had to let go. But the first step towards letting go, I did heal myself. I also spoke about accepting change. Now, the first thing I did is I acknowledged the fact that I had to change. Now, after that, what did I do? So I had my battle in my head, which went on and on. There was no kind of a stopping. There was nothing stopping me from saying, oh, this can't happen or that can't happen. I had my battle going on in my head. But nevertheless, I had to take steps. I had a lot of time for myself. You know what is the one thing which really kicked in? Sitting in a foreign land all by yourself. The one thing which really hit home hard, and that is something I had to deal with first. Though I had to accept change, I had to accept the fact that, okay, now this is done. My child has chosen to move on. I need to move on. I did say this to myself, and I did accept it. But other than that, what is the one thing that hit me and kicked in was loneliness. I missed my spouse. I would have given anything to have him by my side, to even have an argument. Normally we get into these zones where we get so irritated, and we are bugged with our spouse, and we say, you know what, I need a breather, and I need a space, whatever you want to say. I need space from him or her. I need a breather. I need a change. We say a lot of things. But sitting in a foreign land all by myself, battling my own thought processes and emotions, the kind of loneliness that kicked in is something which I can't explain. Only those who've been there and gone through it would understand what I'm saying. I really, in my heart, I really wished and prayed that my spouse was with me at that very moment to share the pain, and also that I could speak to him. Not that I was not speaking to him over a call. I was on a call constantly and talking to him. But nevertheless, I really missed my companion, from the aspect that I couldn't crib, I couldn't nag, and nor could I vent out. From that point, it was really quite a lot. I'm sure that if he's going to be watching this, he's going to be laughing and saying, oh my, is that all why you missed me? But in reality, that was my core reason why I was missing my spouse at that period. So as I started going about doing my work, going about my routine, and it became very difficult for me. One day I was by myself, because my son had to rush into the university, because there was some project had to be submitted. He was running late. It was a Sunday, and he said, give me like 15 minutes. I'm just going to go in and come. And I was sitting in a cafe near the university, and I called my husband and I said, I'm really feeling very low and I really don't know what I'm going to do. So this aspect, when I walked into the park by myself and I saw a lot of mothers running with kids, I felt that when did time go by? How quickly have my kids grown up? After going through all those kind of emotions, and I kind of went through a very bad phase in the park by myself, which I'm not going to get into here because it's irrelevant and we don't need to talk about. I was really disturbed, and when my son came, he had the shelling of his life. I just took off. I was overwhelmed. I was battling with my loneliness, and I just couldn't accept the change, though I was trying to deal with it. And added to that, I went through something which I didn't want to go through. So when all this happened, everything just bottled up and it just exploded. But my boy was really quiet and he just looked at me. And he said, okay, come, let's go here, there. And I was really very annoyed with him. But anyway, we just went about doing whatever. And he tried to calm me down. And when I'm upset, I just choose not to talk. And I just want to be in my space. Because being a healer, I understand how important it is for me to screen my emotions and go through it stage by stage, bringing it back, acknowledging whatever I'm going through. So I went through my own phase of kind of balancing myself and working with myself and doing whatever I had to do. In the meanwhile, I at the back of my head, it's there that, there's nobody here who's going to help you. You have to help yourself. And that was very difficult for me to accept. That was also something that I had to accept and deal with. And then, so we finished his birthday, we finished everything. And the next day I told him, I said, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm going to just stay in the hotel by myself. You just go. So I stayed back. And he went and he was off and he said it's going to come back late in the night. So I was all by myself the whole day. And I got bored in the evening. I called him and he said, by evening I wanted to step out. I just couldn't sit in the room anymore. And he said he's going to take time. And I just said, okay, I just got ready and walked up to there's a shopping area close by. I walked up. The loneliness was eating me in and out. I just couldn't deal with it. So here I am trying to accept the change. I'm trying to let go. I'm trying to adapt to something new that is happening. And then I'm dealing with something called loneliness, which I was not prepared and I was not mentally ready that I was going to go there and go through it. So I went in and I was walking in and out, going through the rows in the shop and in the supermarket, because I have nothing to do. So I just whiled my time, not realizing I must have walked on around 5 in the evening and I was there till past 8, half past 8, I'm not sure. I come out, it's dark, there's no taxis around, and I knew there's no way I'm going to walk back all by myself because there's an entire stretch of road which is very lonely. And I stood for a moment and I started praying. I said, are you testing me? Is there something that I need to learn? Is there something the universe is trying to tell me and I'm failing to understand? Is what I told myself, standing all by myself in that deserted car park. And I look up at the sky. I'm looking at what I'm thinking as the universe is looking down upon me, though I know we are in the universe, but nevertheless it was my thought process. And I'm looking at the stars, I'm looking at the sky, I'm looking at the full moon, and I'm saying, what is it that you're trying to tell me? What is it that you're trying to teach me? I had tears in my eyes as I stood there, no taxi in sight. Called my son. I said, I can't find a taxi. Now what do I do? He gave me a number and he said, try calling them and asking for a cab. I called. And I waited. They said, we'll come at this time, and the cab didn't turn up. And I was waiting. It was almost, I think, 30 minutes plus. I was standing there. It was cold. And I have no clue where the cab is. And I just started doing my Ho'oponopono chant because I started getting scared. The loneliness became that much more. And I think, thanks to people who believe in it will know what I say. People who don't believe in it, it was just coincidental, whatever it is, but I don't believe in coincidences. A cab pulled up and to drop somebody else. and I asked if, the cab could drop me to the place where I had to go. I gave my address and he said, sure, come in. He dropped me, and on the way I thanked my guides. I thanked the universe for bringing in the cab for me. By the time I reached back, it was close to 9. 9 or 9:30, I think 9:30. And I came back to my room. I just flung my bags because I was really, really frustrated. I was frustrated with the situation I was in because I felt I put myself in that, and I felt highly vulnerable. I can't blame anybody because I have gone in with my own will to do something, and I'm not able to do it, and I'm not able to deal with it. And that was something new for me. And I just sat there and tears were just rolling down my eyes, and I asked myself, what am I doing? Am I even a healer? Am I even a shaman? I don't even have control over my own emotions. I don't even have control over my thoughts. I was highly frustrated. I was highly edgy and irritated. I can't explain to the kind of feeling that I went through at that moment. So every day I was telling myself, okay, now I need to let go. I need to learn. But every day there was a new lesson coming my way. And the lessons were not ending. And I just kept telling myself, there's some kind of a deep learning and something I need to know. And, I was really very disturbed, and I calmed myself down. I was in no mood to have anything to eat, but just ate a sandwich. I freshened up, I showered, and I got into bed, and I continued doing my Ho'oponopono because anyway I was by myself, and my son was coming late because he had some assignment, and then he wanted to go out with his friends, and he was going to come late, and he asked me not to wait for him. So I sat in bed and I started doing Ho'oponopono, and the only question in my mind was, what is my learning here? What is it? Are you preparing me for something else? Is there something that am I missing in my life? Is it something that I haven't dealt with? Because I thought I had dealt with loneliness, because when I went through my share of depression, when I lost my mother, and I felt that I'd overcome it, and I knew how to deal with loneliness. But here again, I am sitting in a foreign land. Again, I'm going through my loneliness. Again, I'm going through my fair share of things. I'm trying to deal with so many things, and it's just overwhelming. It was beyond my thought process. And I had one of my friend call me, and she said, somehow I felt that you are tugging at my heart. And I said, I was, but I was not calling you because I was trying to deal with it myself. And she said, why are you being so silly? I mean, we are after all friends, and trust me, this is where friends kick in. And one of the first things that I heard, I saw in many of the messages that came to me when I started speaking about change and about how things go. Many of them have put back messages saying how important friends play in this time of your life. And it is very true. Even if you have one good friend, it's really important. And trust me, hold on to that relationship. You will need it at these times because they become your clutches. They become the bridges for you to cross that phase. And that's exactly what happened to me. And crossing that bridge became that much easier for me because I spoke to her and we had a long conversation. And after speaking to her and listening to what she had to say, and I poured my heart out, I realized what I had to deal with. Because the minute I start speaking, I start putting out my entire story out there. And I realized the missing gaps in the puzzle, and I start fitting it in. So I knew the areas I had to work on. I knew how I have to deal with it. So having dealt with it and having to go through those things, the next day I told myself, I'm not sitting in the room. I'm not going to, even if I'm all alone, I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy the city. I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. And next day morning, I booked for a pedicure. I booked for a hair, hair color, something in this parlor. And I set out. I go there by like 11 o'clock, and I made sure, I think till 1:32, I was at the parlor getting my hair done, my pedicure done. I finished everything and roamed around that area for some time. And evening I went to have a cup of tea, and I sat waiting for my son to come. And I started telling myself, deal with it. Enough, you threw a tantrum. Now even my guides are not here telling me, you need to deal with it, or you need to work with it. I didn't have anybody, neither my angels or guides, but I was telling myself that because doing that Ho'oponopono that night, and the next day having my friend call and speak to me, and pouring my heart out to her. I realized the areas I had to work with. And I realized I have to deal with it. I cannot just sit and curl up in bed and cry and howl because point one, I'm sitting in a foreign land all by myself. Point two, even if I'm crying, there's nobody there to wipe my tears. And point three, other than ruining my health and messing up my son's life, I'm doing nothing. So putting these things together, I started going about myself, started planning my schedule, and I told myself, I don't want to sit in the room. I don't want to lock the door. I don't want to be by myself. I better be out there. Even if I don't know people, I'm still going to be out there amongst the crowd, amongst the people, so that I don't feel very like left out. Not like I was chatting with the crowd, and not like I kept going and saying, hi, how are you to everybody walking down the road. But I made sure I was with people, because that was one way for me to work on myself. So when I would sit with my cup of tea, when I used to sit by myself, I used to sit and focus on healing that weakness in me which was cropping up, and that loneliness in me which was really troubling me. So I sat, and not only was I dealing with accepting the change, but I was also dealing with that aspect of loneliness. And also I started working on that point. And working on that point started making me that much stronger. Having said that, working on myself, I am a person who is resilient, and I keep coming back on my feet, and I have a lot of my friends saying that to me. But nevertheless, I went through whatever, and then we had to change our place. And that's the time when my son's assessments were going on. Obviously, he couldn't help me, and he couldn't miss class because his assessments were going on. So here again, I was all alone with luggage, which I have no clue how I was going to shift. I booked a cab, and we need a bigger cab because there is so much of his luggage as well as mine, which I have to put in and take. By the time I put in everything, there was just about enough space for me to fit into the cab, and it was a van. So I just fit in just about it. The taxi driver was really very polite. He really helped me through everything, though I helped him too. Just between two of us, we put everything in, and I settled myself in, and he spoke to me all the way. By the time we reached the next place I had to shift into, I went there and went into my room, again put everything out, again opened up everything, arranged, because anyway I had ample time in hand, and I had to do it myself. There was no way I could depend that he's going to come, she's going to come, or whoever's going to come. I knew that's not going to happen. So I went about doing whatever I had to do, and at the back of my mind, it's going on saying, I'm doing it by myself. And I just said, get on with it. You are doing it by yourself, and be proud of yourself for what you're doing. You're not crumbling down, you're not crying, but you're accepting and you're moving on. And this is how I started moving. I quickly arranged everything. I quickly put everything. I think it was a week or so after my first pedicure. That evening, again, I booked another pedicure, and I just went for it. I was not even bothered. I was not waiting for my son to come. I just decided to move on, saying that he has moved on, and now it's time for me to move on. And I just went for my another pedicure. And I didn't go for a pedicure because I was throwing a tantrum. I didn't go for a pedicure because I was bored. I went for a pedicure because I wanted to pamper myself in various ways. And my feet were honestly very sore, and I needed some good massage on my feet for all the standing, for all the running around that I was doing. So I went about my life, and even when he used to go, leaving me in the morning, he used to go about his routine. And yes, he did spend time with me. We did get into a lot of arguments because now I'm trying to accommodate and adapt to him. But I noticed that was not coming from him, because he had his own baggage that he was dealing with. So here, I'm letting go. I'm accepting change. I'm dealing with my loneliness, and I'm trying to adapt to something. It became frustrating because I was doing everything by myself. And in the meantime, I also had to find a place for him, and we had to settle it, which became equally stressful for me. So through the whole process of me doing this and going step by step, learning and progressing and saying, okay, now I can do this in a foreign land. trust me, India spoils us. India spoils us from, of course, many people may say that no, we get spoiled other places too, but for me, India spoils me. One call, I have everything happening at my doorstep. Not that it doesn't happen there, but there you have to make the call. So from going and picking up his furniture, to taking it to his place, to setting it up, to finding handyman to come and help me fix things in his place which were not functioning properly. It was one hell of a job, and everything I had to do it by myself, including when I wanted a SIM, I had to go and pick it up by myself. For a girl who has never done all this, this was an amazing lesson. So if I have to say it in short, I don't want to keep extending and pulling on the video of this because I'm doing the series of change. But if I have to put all this together and summarize it, in the process of accepting change, I had to deal with loneliness. I had to deal with my emotions. I had to deal with letting go, setting boundaries. The quicker I started moving, the better it became for me. There were days where I used to really want to throw everything, and I used to curl up in the sofa or in the bed, not wanting to look at anything, because I used to feel so frustrated because I was doing everything by myself. I told my son, I feel like a glorified maid for you, because you're just making me do everything for you. And I said, what are you going to do after I leave? And I started counting my days to when I was actually going to leave, because I was missing home, I was missing my spouse, I was missing my other son too. The closer I started coming to the days, and he started noticing, it so happens, it's so funny, the once I see, this is the way the universe reciprocates to you. So as long as I kept saying, I don't have anybody, I don't have anything, the universe actually showed that to me. And the minute I turned around and I said, I'm going to live my life, even if I have to live it all alone. I am not lonely. I am not anything. It's fine. I'm going to go sit in a pub by myself, and I'm going to have a glass of juice or a glass of wine. I'm going to go sit in a cafe and have a cup of tea, but it's okay. I will do it when I'm alone. You won't believe it. The last 3 weeks before I leave, I suddenly had a social circle. And it's a miracle as to how the social circle formed. And it so happens that not only the circle formed, I started meeting them pretty often. So it was the period of Diwali, and I met this one of my very, very good friend. She came in as a student, and then she became a good friend, and I met her, and just sitting across the table, she said, why don't you join me for a Diwali party at home? So like that, I started getting a lot of invitations. And the minute I changed my thought process, the minute I worked on myself, and the minute I said, it's fine, whatever the life is, I'm going to deal with it. Till the day I left, I didn't have time to breathe. I had a life there. I actually felt bad that I had to leave it and come. But the first 3-4 weeks, when I couldn't deal with it and I didn't want to deal with it, that was like a nightmare for me, because I was resisting change. I just couldn't deal with loneliness. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know what to do with my life. So when I was in that phase, I went through a very bad phase that I literally wanted to pull my hair apart. But when I started working on myself and I changed my entire thought process, and I said, listen, this is it. I have to take it and I have to accept it. My God, the way the doors opened for me is something beyond my own thought process. I had this very good chauffeur who would pick me up from the airport. He was very helpful to me. He came and he used to kind of help me with a lot of things. I laughingly tell my friends that looks like I'm making a lot of friends with, the handyman and the taxi drivers, but everybody started helping me in their own way. Somebody would come and somebody would set up something for me. Somebody would come and, if I kind of needed something, the taxi driver would be polite, saying, I'm waiting for you, just go and pick it up and come. Don't worry about the meter running. I'm there and I'm taking care of it. So that way, random strangers who I don't even know their name, and I don't even think they even know my name, and whether we've whatever, But they all came. They were like God sent, angel sent for me. They were all around me doing my things for me. It became the minute I took my reins back in my life, the minute I started working on myself, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And accepting the change became that much more easy for me. And of course, I told you, I started meeting a lot of friends. I started going out with them. I started spending time with them. So again, that became that much more exciting for me because I was meeting new people, talking a lot. I've built a beautiful circle there, and I'm looking forward to going back there soon. Yes, to see my son, but now to go meet my friends who I've made there and they become that much more meaningful for me because they've come into my life at the time when I really needed them. So packing up and leaving was a mixed emotion for me. I had to leave my son. I had to leave the circle, a life which I created. And I know how much of difficulty I created it. But I was happy to come back home. And, in the airport, when even in the airport, I had people helping me. They said that, you don't look well. Are you okay? Do you need assistance? Do you need a wheelchair? And I was taken aback. I was like, I don't need a wheelchair. I'm perfectly fine and I don't think I need. And they said, no, you look unwell. And I said, I'm just upset because I'm leaving my son back. So they were really kind at the airport. So every step of my life, after I took control of my life, it just changed. Coming back home, in the flight, the entire flight, I cried. I cried quite a bit because I cried for how my life is changing to whatever is happening. So I was all by myself and I had no intention of talking to the person next to me. So I was just sitting in my own shell that I created, and I was crying and I was weeping and went through my own pain. And in the whole process of going through what I went through, and when I landed, by the time I landed back in India, and I started doing my prayers, I started healing myself again. I walked out of the airport and I thought I'm actually going to break down seeing my son and my husband. I didn't. I just changed. I just accepted change. Life's changed. Everything changed. Don't ask me what happened. It was magical. I just come back. I come back to my life. I know my son is happy there. He's settled there. I know he has a life. After that, I wouldn't call him that much. I wasn't worried for him. And accepting change became that much more easy for me. And I just moved on. So I think, in short, each one have a different way of accepting change. Each one have a different way of living with change. And each one have their own threshold. And I think each one of us should just go with it as it comes and learn. The quicker you learn, the quicker you accept, the quicker you heal. With that, I thank you so much. Unless you ask me to pick up anything more about this and speak, am I going to, or I end the series of change? I thank you so much. I wish you a beautiful and a wonderful day. Once again, thank you for all the lovely messages and the support that I always get. Thank you. I thank you. Namaste.